Hello folks, I'm going to do a quick 12-minute Enterprise Mobility Suite demo here. We're going to move pretty quickly to get through this in 12 minutes, so hang on. Now the first thing we're going to do here is enroll an iPad into Intune for management. And of course somebody gets this brand spanking new iPad, one of the first things they're going to want to do of course is connect to their corporate email and try to get some work done. So they'll come in, click on Exchange, put in their Office 365 credentials. It'll jump out to the cloud. It'll say, hey, we know who you are. What kind of information do you want to sync to this device? Now, this next part here happens in real time, just to show how quick this email comes in. But on the Intune side, we've set up this conditional access policy that says users can't get access to email. They can't sync email on devices that we don't manage. So you'll see this email come in from the Intune service that the Intune administrator can customize this message, of course, that basically says to access email, you need to enroll your device for management. So this user says, okay, well that's fine. I'm happy doing that. I want to get access to corporate resources on this device, so I'll do what I need to do. And the next process here walks through a few things. So first of all, it's going to tell us that we need to go grab the Intune company portal app, which we do. And we'll speed through this pretty quickly. The user would obviously click on this to download it. And then, of course, once it's downloaded, then they can click Open. And the application will open. The Intune portal, company portal application will open. And then, of course, the first thing they need to do here is to provide their domain credentials. In this case, whatever the credential is that they would use to log into their computer in the morning. And then we'll log them in. And then the next step that happens here is that we're going to ask them to enroll the device. And that enrollment process is pretty straightforward. It walks them through exactly what they need to do. Basically, we're pushing some certificates and some management profiles and things down to the device so that the device meets compliancy standards, right? So if we want to make sure they can't use the camera, and we want to make sure they can't use Siri in this case, or any of that kind of fun stuff, then we can force that in these policies, force a PIN to the device with a certain complexity. And then we tell the user here too that we may collect personal data, we can add or remove accounts, we can install and manage apps, we can even do a remote wipe of the iPad. So the user accepts all of those, all of that stuff, and they move on, and then ultimately here the device gets all the information that it needs from Intune, and it's enrolled in the Intune service. And so you'll see that pop up here. Now the user can peruse the portal. They can see applications that the administrators have made available for them. In the background, we're going to push some applications to them that we're going to manage. But the user can also click on the link there that shows their device. They can do a manual sync. They can remove the device from management if they want to. They can rename it. They can do stuff like that. We can click on this remote desktop, for example. These are not apps that we're forcibly installing, but we'll give a user a shortcut to get to those applications. So you can see those links come in. So all these apps that we're forcing or pushing down, the user has to click install, click to accept those. And then this is what it looks like there in the background as all these applications that we're pushing down start to install on the device. And so what are the applications? Well, this is our Intune portal. You can see all the applications that we've made available or that we're pushing to the device. And the administrators, of course, can come in and see what devices those have been pushed to, if there's been any errors, what users are using those, etc. So what about these managed Office applications? The iPad apps, for example, have Intune Management built in. So if we come back over to the iPad, we can see, first of all, that enrollment email is gone. We've registered the device. That email is gone, so the user doesn't get confused. So that's a good thing. And now we're going to start opening these Office applications, and we're just going to walk through a pretty basic scenario here where we just want to do some copy and paste, right, to show that within this, we want to give the users this very nice first-party experience, not these containerized viewer applications, but actually let them use the Office applications to be productive. And they can copy and paste information from within these managed applications. So we'll do a quick test here, do a little bit of text, open it up over in Excel in the managed application. And you'll see here pretty basic stuff, right, that we'll just be able to open up a spreadsheet and we'll just do a quick paste. And as we would expect, the text that we copied over from the Word document will paste just fine over here into this Excel spreadsheet. Now what we'll want to do now is go over to an app that Intune's not managing, like the native email application on the iPad. So we'll come over here and say, hey, well, we want to take some of this text from this Managed Word application and try to paste that over into an email. Well, that's not going to work. So give you a quick idea there of the managed applications. The next thing we want to cover off on is the Azure Application Portal and multi-factor authentication. So in my scenario here, like many of our customers, I'm an Office 365 customer. I have an Active Directory Federation server on-prem. And I've also pulled down the ADFS, or excuse me, the multi-factor authentication server, and I'm plugging that into, using this ADFS adapter, into my, plugging multi-factor authentication into my ADFS environment. And so what that allows me to do, if I edit this multi-factor authentication policy, is to ensure that various different scenarios, group membership, whether a person's inside or outside the firewall, or in my case, whether they're on an unregistered or registered device, we're going to force that second factor authentication. So in my case, I'm going to say if you're on a device that's not Intune managed, then I'm going to force a second factor authentication. Well, of course, if we go back to the iPad, this is a managed device, so our expectation here is that we're not going to get this second factor authentication, and of course we won't. But we'll also want to show a little bit of the application portal here and how users get access to these applications that our administrators have configured for single sign-on. So we'll log in with our domain credentials, we'll bring up the My Application Portal, and we'll be able to log into things like Office 365, for example. So we'll click on the Office 365 SharePoint site there. So from our iPad, we now have access to our corporate email. We have access to Office 365. We also have access to other applications that we may be federated to, right? So something like Salesforce.com, for example, where we've done all the heavy lifting up in Azure, all the SAML federation, all the nuts and bolts have been done up in Azure. And then the last one there is our web application proxy. So this is actually a web server that's behind the firewall that we're publishing through the Azure web application proxy and making that available. This could be an expense reporting application or some other kind of custom line of business app behind the firewall. So now if we come over to, this is just a Windows 8.1 device. It's a virtual machine that's running up in Microsoft Azure, so it's connected to the internet, but it's not domain connected. And if we look at the PC management or PC settings, we can see that we're not workplace join, we're not turned on, the device is not turned on for Intune management. So we're now going to open that same application portal and see what our experience is here. So we'll log in as that same user, put in the password, and what's going to happen here is we're going to be prompted to do second factor authentication. Now in my case, my user is set up to use our mobile app. So on the left hand side is Windows Phone, the right hand side is the iPad, and we'll get that notification that we're trying to access the portal and we've been prompted for a second factor, so we'll verify that. And then once that's been verified, nothing to do over on the portal side, we'll jump back over to the PC, it automatically logs us into the portal. And now, of course, we can click on Office 365. We can click on all those, the same applications. We can go over to Salesforce.com, which we've been set to federate to. We can, if we're a Dynamic CRM customer, you can see I have that one in there. That works great too. There's the web application proxy. We're clicking through to that. There's also a corporate SharePoint site that's behind the firewall as well too that we want to expose into this service here. So the next one we want to cover here is the self-service password reset. So same device here, but I realize I can't get to my password. So here's my ADFS login page. I can customize this. It's on-prem, so I can do that. Easy to do there. Here's the Office 365 portal. Same thing. Can't access your account. Both of those links go to the same place, which is our passwordreset.microsoftonline.com page. Now you'll notice up in the top left here, you see the Microsoft logo. But what will happen when I put in my user ID and tab to the next field to put in the verification code there, you'll see that the logo changes to my corporate branding. So now you give the user kind of a nice warm and fuzzy about, okay, well, I'm supposed to be here and this makes sense and I'm about to change my password and I'm not in Never Never Land. So now when the user logs into that app portal for the first time, we'll gather some information from them, or we'll pull some things from Active Directory, depending on the information, to force a second factor, prompt for a second factor authentication to reset their password. So they put in their phone number, we text them or call them, and then they could reset their password with whatever they want the new password to be, and then we'll force that password all the way back down on-prem. Pretty cool stuff. Now, the last thing here we want to cover is rights management. So basically what I'm going to do here is create a Word document and send an email. So this is some confidential information that I want to send to somebody outside my organization, but I want to make sure it's for their eyes only. And of course they don't have an Active Directory user identity in my Active Directory, right? So it's hard for me to try to figure out how to do that using the on-prem rights management services. It's not possible to do that. So we want to enable the scenario where I'm going to send an email, this document, to a user that's outside of my company. So we'll attach that file that we just created, which is just a pretty basic generic Word document. And then we'll use our RMS sharing application to send this email with a very specific permission. So we're just going to give this person viewer permission, very limited permissions, just the ability to view it. And we're going to expire the content, and we're actually going to prompt for an email notification every time somebody opens that. So we're going to send that email out. And this is on the user side. This is the recipient side. So they get this email that tells them that they've received some protected information. In my case, this user could be an Office 365 user already, for example, which they are, and they would open the email and they would see that the content's set to expire on a certain day. They could click on this to view permissions and say, "Hey, this is restricted access, and this is the permissions that you have for this particular document." And we're going to once again expire that content on a specific time and date. So same thing here. We can actually open that in the iPad. So we go to our mail application on the iPad. We open that up. You can see we can download this protected PDF file using the RMS client on the iPad. So we'll open that on the iPad. We'll say, yeah, we'll support that. We'll log in with our credentials. And then we'll basically say that we can do some tracking here. So whether or not you like that or not, we can track who opens this document in the future. And then, of course, the user would open the document, and then the first thing that we'll do is obviously show them the text of the document, but then we'll actually show them that they have restricted access to this and they can only view that document. And then, of course, on the back end, we can see that we get the email from the RMS team that tells us that our user over there has opened this document and the time and the date stamp. There you go, 12 minutes EMS.